Right. Hello, Caitlin.
Angela,
How
hello.
are you? This is so fun. Anybody watching this is going to have so much fun tonight.
Hello, everyone. We always have fun. The banter is coming, the real talk is coming. It's going to be a great time.
It is. So happy Women's History Month.
Thank you. Happy Women's History Month. Right back at you.
Thank you. And it's awesome. It's an honor to talk to you because you are knee deep in women's history with your company that you own. So let's start with who you are and tell us about your company.
My name is Kaitlin Calogera. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I own a small business here called A Tour of Her Own. So I run women's history tours across the city. We do walking tours, driving tours, virtual tours, all kinds of groups. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for this work. A lot of what we do is community based and partnership based, which is, how you and I have become such good friends and
Yeah.
colleagues. And also, yeah, so with A Tour of Her Own, which I will reference as Toho moving forward, we do it all year round. So I'm super excited as well that it's Women's History Month, but like this is sustainable. We do it every month is Women's History Month here with Toho.
Yeah. And so you started as a regular old tour guide doing regular old American history tours up and down the East Coast. So talk a little about that and how you sparked the idea of women's history.
Great question, because we're also moving into that season where if you're in the DMV, you're going to start to see thousands of eighth graders taking over wearing bucket hats. That's how I started. I still do some of that work because it's
Yeah.
important to just, work with the young people and also, going back to more traditional history. There's a lot of benefits in that. But that's how I started. So for a couple years, I was doing a lot of the traditional sites, like Arlington National Cemetery, the Capitol Building, White House, Smithsonian's, which is really great. And the thing is, I talked about this in my blog post, but when you get into this industry, a lot of tour guides or tour directors, we work as freelancers and contractors.
Right.
So, you're constantly working for someone else, which means you're executing their itinerary. You're the historian, but you're not really like organizing it.
Yeah.
And it was in that space where, yes, I can execute this itinerary, but it's not always in alignment with who I am and, the kinds of histories that I was interested in. This is about 2015, 2016. So DC's, the current event scene is really important. I'm really stepping into like, what women's history and representation means. So yeah, I started to transition from those more standard tours into these really niche tours. And we kind of do them through two lenses. Like one is, we have like a national mall tour, which, is still going to recognize amazing history about Abraham Lincoln or George Washington, which is
Yeah.
really important. We're going to blend it. I'm not trying to erase
Not
them.
gonna say you can't talk about Abraham Lincoln. We'll still talk about Abraham Lincoln. Fine. The great
But
man.
only if you talk about a woman too. So it's
Right.
like, come on. So yeah, we'll interpret it through that lens, or like some of our more popular tours really go into the neighborhoods and we find where there is women's representation, whether it's like a plaque or something like that. So yeah, the tourism industry, it has a few different points of entry, but for me being an independent contractor and now like I was doing that for 2 or 3 years and I'm like I have a million different payment systems and I have to invoice this person who's paying that like and eventually I was like I think I'll just start my own business and like you uniform it and it works better for you most of the time. So
Right.
the transition to like being a proper LLC I think is really important in case there are creatives or tour guides like listening. Like I think that that's necessary.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because it's sometimes, especially now, people talk about the the gig economy or having all these freelance jobs, and it sounds freeing until right invoicing time or tax time. You're just like, oops, did I forget to do that? And so there's something nice about being able to bring it all in house, and then you kind of get to do the tours that you want to do, and you're targeting the people that are interested in them. Some of my favorites that I've been on. So those of you listening, I actually, I'm just going to go ahead and tell this story. You posted in Women in Hospitality years ago something like, "Would anybody want a tour like this?" And I was like, "I do." I'm a participator. If I'm in a club, I'm in it. And
You are.
so we connected that way. And then I took your women and retail, right,
Hmm.
tour.
Hmm.
And that was amazing because I am somebody who's worked in retail for a long time, worked for a big retailer, and growing up, just outside of DC. My mom grew up in DC. She was so excited to see just the history of it and the places she used to, go to, or the windows she would walk by that she really wouldn't go in because it was a little pricey for her, and hearing all that history. And I just fell in love with what you were doing because it was, you know, a lot of us, okay, so we live outside of DC, but we bring people here. I've brought people to the mall. We've done George, George and Abraham,
Yeah.
Thomas and and it's great. And if you've never been to Washington D.C., you should see all the main sites. But there comes a point where it's like, God,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's kind of, it can be boring. Or if you don't have a really good tour guide, which you
Hmm.
guys are great, you're sort of like, oh, God, I'm back in history class, and it's boring and it's not so interesting. So I think that the guide makes such a difference.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And like that's so much I think of where your work and our work like crisscrosses because if you're a good tour guide in most cities across the world or any place, you have to understand that you got to go beyond the history.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really are trying to tell the story of a place, then it's going to be not only the history, but the culture, the food, the shopping, the music, the art. And so that's kind of I think from a tour guide perspective, what we try to do, which is why like it's intergenerational. You and your mom can show up.
Right.
You can learn the city, and it's also it's intergenerational. We show you the city, but also it often that's where you find the women's stories.
Yeah.
It's at the shops. It's in the artwork. It's in the corner. So if you only stay in the mall, you don't really get it. So it's the two aligned really just like make sense for us to do.
Yeah. Was there one of your custom tours or special tours that you were so excited to create when you started it? Or was there something that you were just like, this is a story I really, really want to tell? Was there anyone in particular that?
Ooh. Well, I'll add like a Torvrone is in our eighth year of business,
That's
and you
amazing.
might remember the first couple years in 2018.
Hmm.
The way I launched the business was building a team of tour guides, and they created their own tours.
Right, right.
And that gave me space to be like, oh, I can figure out how to run a business because what, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So for the first few years, like not to say I was like hands off, I was
Hmm.
involved with the tours, but I was taking that back end more. Now, since in 2020 we launched our book,
Hmm.
111 Places in Women's History That You Must Not Miss,
Yep.
and my co-author Rebecca and I now through that really have become more hands on with the tours,
Hmm.
and so to your point, we create a lot of the custom tours. For me, I've spent a lot of time in like the downtown DC area lately, and I just love the call boxes down there, Like I really love Alma Thomas. I think that's a story that
Hmm.
is one that I lean to because she's someone who was a DC public school teacher, and then by the end of her life and even beyond when she passed, her artwork was hanging in the White House and the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're gonna understand DC, you have to understand that what's local is global, and her
Hmm.
story like really exemplifies that. Yeah.
And tell people what a call box is. Maybe
Ah,
maybe they're not from DC. I'm sure other cities have them, but or at
yeah,
least
these
yeah.
call boxes are like uh, metal structures on the sidewalk.
Which I know a
There's
lot of you who are listening have seen it and gone, I wonder what that is.
million times you've walked right past it.
Yep.
They used to be for emergency purposes. So the police and the fire department, they would have like a lever or like you could be handcuffed to it or maybe some kind of an alarm, but we don't need that anymore. I tried to handcuff you to it the one time, but you ran away.
At
So
work, I
yeah.
was like, this is not for me. Yep.
You were like, I thought I was coming on a tour.
Oh, yeah.
No, so obviously we don't use them anymore. So they are public art installations. Some of them are more casual, like locals will do it, but in downtown, the business improvement district and a local artist work together. So there's like 8 of them down there that are specifically for women,
Hmm.
and they're great stories. So you have Alma Thomas, Flora Moulton, Catherine Graham is
Hmm.
typically someone people recognize from the
Yeah.
Washington Post. But yeah, they're beautiful and they're unique and they're just like on the sidewalk where you walk every day. So
Yeah. I pass one sometimes driving to, when I go to Friendship Heights for client meetings, and I drive by it, and it's not. it hasn't been artistically done. It's just kind of standing there rusty. And every time I pass, I'm like, I'm going to tell Kaitlin to tell me to talk to somebody. This one needs to be,
Yeah. I think
designed.
that's a Friendship Heights Alliance project or something, right?
It's
Didn't we
kind of
do that?
outside of their zone a little bit.
Ah,
It's
okay.
on my way. I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to take the address, and I'm going to
Yeah,
figure out who's in charge here, and or I'm going to go out there with a paintbrush and just
there
do
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
Ask for
Forgiveness.
forgiveness instead of permission.
Yeah, that's kind of how we roll. In fact, that is a lot of women's history, is it not? To, just kind of go for it and hope for the best. You helped. You didn't help. You wrote the blog for my website this month. So anybody who's listening, either go to my website, let's say Friendship Heights Favorite Daughter LLC. And Caitlin's blog is there, but you said something in the blog that I thought was so interesting, just about it was kind of like the numbers, right? You said, because a lot of folks will say, well, you know, all right, we get it, suffragettes, but it's a lot more than suffragettes, a lot more than voting. So in D.C., there are only 3 statues of American women on outdoor public land. In the Capitol, there are only 15 women represented out of 100 statues in the National Statuary Hall. In the Capitol building, only 4 of the 30 rooms are named for women. Arlington Cemetery, there's only 1 woman recognized among 34 notable graves in the official brochure. And you kind of go on and on with these numbers. So let's talk about that importance, and how do we encourage more people to understand, why this matters to us now and to future generations.
The numbers are something that people really relate to because it's tangible, it's measurable, it's calculated. There's a certain element of the work where people are really empowered, and I always want to hold that and celebrate it. And that sometimes could look like this. For instance, I'm at the World War II Memorial and I say, hey, who do we think about women in World War II? And of course, someone there is like Rosie the Riveter. And, they're, oh, and they have a story. My grandmother was a Rosie the Riveter. And so the numbers get you to the stories, which is always important. But from the historian perspective, like sometimes I have to check that person a little bit softly and say, I love Rosie the Riveter. However, let's really take a look at how this woman has been represented to us. First of all, she's not a real woman. She's sort of an allegorical representation of employment or liberation, freedom, however you see her. But she's not based on a real woman. I think they use some sort of images to craft her visually, but she's an idea. And then the second piece of that really is that Rosie the Riveter represents a civilian woman, so from the home into the workforce. Awesome, really important. However, it kind of overshadows the women who were participating in the military during
Right.
World War II.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like with the numbers, you can kind of like help show people, here's the representation we have, and how do you relate to that? And then you can kind of expand it to like, look at all these other sorts of people that can be part of this or could have statues or could have
Right.
memorials.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the interesting thing about like the Capitol, for instance, it's like 15 out of 100. I always ask my groups, I say, oh, there's 100 statues. How many do you think are women? Nobody ever says 50%.
Yeah.
They say 2, 8,
They know.
12. They know, exactly, they know. And I'm just like, until we get to the point where some, young girl or young boy says 50, why wouldn't there be 50%?
Right.
Like, like that's sometimes the easiest way to make sense of the representation.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't
yeah.
that something? It's like it's just so ingrained in us. Well, of course there'll be less. Of course there'll be less. But why would there be half? I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. And I think that the one of the things I find so interesting about your tours is, and I get it, like it's always like those little nuggets of information, but you guys do a really good job of just painting like the bigger picture of what was going on, right? So it's funny when you hear people say, "Oh, but Rosie the River, my grandmother was a Rosie the River." It's like, okay, well, in the bigger context of what was happening, I mean, some people might say, "Oh, that's propaganda." Whatever, propaganda is advertising and marketing, and it could be.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative, it can still be, sort of only a piece of the entire story. And I think what you guys do a really good job of is
Right.
like, here's what was going on, here's what was happening, here's why this is a big deal when the women marching for voting, were jailed. It's like, oh, because a lot of times it's like the pretty picture of like, look at them fighting. It's like, well, there's some serious danger in doing those types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can give a good example about that, I
Yeah.
think. And going back to the point of like, why is this even important?
Hmm.
People leave my tours often, and I try to get information out of them or reflections. And sometimes they're really honest and they're like, this was so great. I loved it. But they struggle to see where they belong.
Mm.
They're like, I'm not a suffragist. I'm not a congresswoman. I'm not a military. Like, where do I belong in this? And it feels sort of like otherly. And so, like, the one thing that I say to them, which comes from the women's suffrage movement, is that we're all a mosaic. So Angela's going to create a little piece of this. I'm going to create a little piece of this. The artist is, the food is, the costume maker, right?
Mhm.
And together we all make a bigger picture. And I had a college softball team on my tour last week, and I was telling them about the women's suffrage movement, and they're 18, 19, 20, 21. They're like, oh, that's really interesting, but like, how is it going to absorb for them to be important? And it was when I said this line that it resonated with them. It was that, the suffragists in 1913 planned this parade, and one of the reasons it was so revolutionary was because they took up space on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Mm.
No, whatever, horses, no cars, no people. Like, taking up this space was really just part of the resistance, and it wasn't expected for ladies to do that.
Right.
And that's when the softball player in college now was like, wait, our coach tells us that all the time. Like, we have to get on the field and take up space. Like, we own it, like it's ours, like we're competitive, like we belong there, like we have
Right.
confidence. So it's just, you have to look back at something that's kind of
Yeah.
out there, and sometimes you
Writing
just
it
take a
down. So.
lesson. Yeah. Take up space.
Take up space. I mean, we hear it, but it's like, what does that mean? And at that time, it was, blocking the street and standing tall, and I think that's amazing. And I feel like it's really, especially because you do some tours with young people, is a lot of times we think this was so long ago. It's really not that long ago, right? I mean, it's really not, and it's pretty recent history. So I think reminding folks of how what it took to get to where we are now is pretty remarkable.
And what's been taken along the way
And what's
as
been
well.
taken along the way,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how why I mean, I know for us it sounds like the two of us knowing how where we stand, like it sounds kind of silly to be like, why is it so important? But it's really, this is more for other people to realize why it's also so important for us to keep doing this. And I believe in the blog you also talk about a new museum. Tell us what's coming, what's happening.
Yeah, we have two really awesome representations of women coming to the National Mall. One I'll mention first, I'll go deeper into the second one.
Okay.
The first one is part of the Smithsonian, the Women's History Museum.
Hmm.
It was approved, I think, about 6 years ago with a museum for Latino history or Latin American history. I'm not sure the official name. So those two are in the works.
Hmm.
Now, anyone that has ever, inquired about these things knows the Smithsonian's take a long time. You got to
Hmm.
build it, it's brick and mortar. I mean, the whole development of it. So that's, I guess, happening, but kind of
Yeah,
out there in the,
it's gonna be a while.
it's going to be a while. I think they're like staffed and they have digital stuff, but it's going to be a while. But what is likely to manifest a lot earlier is the National Women's Suffrage Monument, which will tell the story of women's suffrage, and it will be on the National Mall at Constitution Gardens. So the address is actually going to be Constitution Avenue and 19th Street, which is
Oh,
great because the 19th Amendment is what gave women the right to vote. So it's like
yeah.
so symbolic.
So cool. That is
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
And
that's one
who sort of
thing.
like, how could, is there a way for people to get involved in that? Is it, donations, other things? Cool.
Yeah, so the Women's Suffrage Foundation, we're like a coalition partner. They're really great. signed up for their email list, but I think they're definitely in a fundraising phase. So, fundraise, contribute if you can, or, like book a tour with me and say, how can we structure this in a way where part of the funds can go to the memorial? Like we
Yeah.
can do stuff like that. But the really neat thing about this monument and this foundation is that um, it's kind of like contribute how you can, if you're someone that knows the history, if you understand the layout, if you know like policy, like there's always like kind of a little bit of interesting thing about how these things come to be,
Hmm.
that whatever you have to offer, you just, figure it out, like
Yeah.
offer it up, or when they ask for entries, sometimes they just ask people to show up on tours so that,
Right.
you can learn, or they tell your friend about it. Like there's easy ways and there's harder ways. But the neat thing about it is that the suffrage monument has every living first lady support behind it, including Rosalind Carter, who passed away. So it's like bipartisan,
Yeah.
and congresswomen on both sides. So it's just neat to.
Awesome.
That's why I say just you like look for a way that you
Second
can
place.
jump in.
Yeah.
It might just be forwarding an article, posting it on your social media, just
Yeah.
telling people about it, or it could be something more, serious. But yeah.
Yeah. Definitely want to make sure we put it in the notes when we post this. But yeah, and something else you had actually put in the blog, and you and I have talked about a lot, is that the way women tend to work is in that collaborative, what is it that you bring to it, right? So our businesses are very different, but we always tend to find a way to collaborate. Or I get the text from you where you're like, hey, you know anybody who does this? And I just think that there's something about the way especially women entrepreneurs, business owners operate, where we're just like, hey, got somebody for this? Know anything about that? Or I'm working on this thing. Just being able to ask you during your busiest month, one of your busy months probably, as we get into spring, to be like, want to write my blog for me? It's like, but I have no fear of asking, because I also have no fear of you being like, can't do it.
Hmm.
It's cool. That's fine. So I think there's something about women putting these things together that is super. I don't know. It always feels so collaborative, and I love that about
Hmm.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it, I think a lot of the topics you talked about, like we could dive deeper into from a women in business and like leader perspective, but a lot of it really is, it's like the asks, like, are you brave? Are you courageous? Or do you have trust to ask? And the more times you ask, the more no's you'll get, but you'll get more yeses.
yeah.
The ability to say no, right?
Mhm.
Like to your point. And it's like, how do we get those tools and those skills? Sometimes it's from our community and you see other people doing it. Sometimes it's from the history lessons. Often it's from like women in our family, which is why a lot of people will come on my tours and they'll talk about their mom, their grandmother, their aunt. But yeah, it's collaborative,
Yeah.
and we're all weaved together.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, like you said, well, while we're going to get ready to get inundated by eighth graders, we also have cherry blossoms coming, and a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
us locals will kind of roll our eyes. But I got to tell you, I love it. I mean, I think it's great. Now, the insiders know you don't have to go to the tidal basin to see a cherry blossom. We know we can get them elsewhere. But talk about what this time of year is for you. How do you embrace it, or are you kind of like, oh, here we go? What's your
Yeah, no, I definitely embrace it. I mean, we're like a seasonal business. So, first of all, when the first month comes back that business is in, you're like, oh yeah, let's
let's do
go,
it?
right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, it's like you're coming out of winter, you have longer days, the sun is out, and DC really is one of the greenest cities. Like I know we talk about the tidal basin and the cherry blossoms, and those are great. We also have Rock Creek Park.
Yeah.
And so there's like you just get outside and you take in all that the city has to offer. So I love it. My allergies will get to me, and it's like people are learning how to also be outside again. So sometimes the tours get a little crazy, but no, it's like such an amazing time to be in DC, and like I'm just out there telling people that the cherry blossoms were brought to us by two women. First Lady Helen Taft and Eliza Skidmore. So anytime I get to just insert that in is a good opportunity.
I think it's to me it's awesome, because I feel like we could say anything about, I don't know, again we could go back to Abe Lincoln, and you would be like, in fact,
Yeah, absolutely.
footnote. And I think it's awesome, because again, if you're not doing that, or we're not doing that, then so many of these people's stories will just fall by the wayside. What was
Mhm.
I listening to recently on the? Oh my gosh, was it Mary Surratt that was responsible for, God, who's the guy that killed Abraham Lincoln, and
On
she,
most booths.
John Wilkes Booth, and she housed him, and she, I was listening to some podcast about it, and it was so fascinating, and I kept thinking to myself, I got to send this to Caitlin because Caitlin knows about it, but also so she knows that I'm learning more about, notorious women doing,
Yeah.
important things out there. So it was just so funny every time I have some kind of, it's like the standard history lesson is John Wilkes Booth, and there's like a women's story inserted into like, must tell Caitlin. I'm like, why am I telling Caitlin? I really should just tell other women.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, listen, I'll always receive it, but sometimes I'm like, I get like 30,
And you're like, I know.
go tell someone that doesn't know. That's why my Facebook group is really good. I know you're like active in there,
Yeah.
'cause, and that's why I started it like years ago. Because I'm like, I love this, but other people should see it. So like, post it in there, and people comment, and it's great. But the Mary Surratt thing is funny for you because the house that they planned Abraham Lincoln's originally they were going to kidnap him. It's now in Chinatown, and it's like a sushi and karaoke place called Rock and Roll. So like that's women's history and food
All
all
together in
all
one.
coming together. Yeah,
Yeah. Isn't
she
that
would be
cool?
the first woman put to death by
Yeah.
the federal government.
Yeah. In fact, it was the podcast was called Criminal by Phoebe
Oh,
Judge. Yes. This is Criminal. If anyone likes crime stuff. She digs, and sometimes it's not like a straight crime, like someone did this, they went to jail. It's a very windy road of like, was this legal? Was it not? I love it.
that's awesome.
I like a good crime story. So that
Totally,
my
totally.
next life, I'm going to be like FBI or. But
I'm questioning now that you're so interested. I'm like, are you CIA? Are you undercover right
in
now?
DC, anybody could be CIA. You just don't know. But
It's
yeah,
true.
my friend Bianca Zwanchik, she calls us the private investigation firm of Rakus and Rakus because my mom and we can find anything out about anything you want. So, and we have been deployed by her. Like, what do you know about this person? Like, let me get to the bottom of that for you. So
Let
I
me
think in my
disagree.
next life, maybe my retirement job is going to be like a private eye or something. It's possible.
I'm here for it.
So what's happening with Toho? What new things? What's exciting? Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, Toho is going strong. We are navigating an interesting climate here in DC. So a couple things. I think you know this because you were been involved for so long. But we like last year shifted from some of our public programming into more private tours. So now we do a lot of like tours for companies,
Hmm.
offices, alumni groups, universities,
Yeah.
and then we kind of custom build it to like meet whatever their interests are. Because sometimes you get, folks that are like, oh, we really like food, or,
Hmm.
we're in like lawyers. I get like a lot of lawyer groups. And so we'll do like a tour and I'll include, whether it's like a portrait or a headstone or something of a lawyer. We'll go to the Supreme Court. So
Right.
that stuff's fun because it's just really like you can connect with people on the other side. It's not like here's what we offer, we have that too, or we can go really into it. To what we were talking about earlier too, a lot of those tours now, we're like building out itineraries that include lunch, include museum, behind the scenes
Hmm.
attractions. So, well, from the walking tours, we're kind of like building out, and like people really, really like that.
Yeah.
And because they're private, there's just a lot of even like friend groups and stuff saying, hey, I want to take this tour, I'll book it, and then I'll rally, 10 or 15 of
People,
my
yeah,
friends.
that's great. Yeah, it's really cool. Is there anything that people have asked that you were just like, huh, let me figure that out? Like that you were just you're not expecting when it comes to a tour?
I just got an email that I was like, this is such a lovely email, but I also know that this is gonna really, I'm gonna have to navigate this somehow. If you've ever been to the National Archives, there is a rotunda where you have America's charters of freedom, we call them. So the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights.
Hmm.
And now the National Archives is actually going to put on display the 19th Amendment.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I saw the email come in because they're doing like a launch for
Hmm.
it, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I was like, my groups are gonna want to see this, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to like,
Right.
you know, you skip the line? Can you get an appointment? And the museums are, especially now for challenging times, they're always changing their policies and
Right.
who has access and stuff. So that's one thing I'll have to figure out. Like sometimes getting into the buildings is like, all right, I gotta put this together. But like that's the thing too. If someone wants to see the 19th Amendment, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, no,
No.
unless I really can't do it. And I'll be honest. But like,
Right.
yeah, let's figure that out.
We just figure it out. Absolutely. That's awesome. And um, back to sort of, this, it all sounds like fun and games, but it is a business. What have been some things that you're excited about for 2026 with your business, or in 2025? Is there anything that kind of stood out as like, yeah, that worked, or
Yeah. So, I guess one thing is I hired a virtual assistant a couple months ago, and she's been doing some of my email marketing. So
Mhm.
that gives you new perspective because you start to think about your content and how you can communicate with people more. So there's that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of over social media, but like that's always in my um, my
Yeah.
my front of my mind. It's on the front burner for
It's on
me.
the front.
Sort of.
Excellent.
Uh, but
Yeah, I
I
get you.
think
Mhm. Go ahead.
I think on that. But when it comes to social media, I am finding like Instagram is a little bit changing for me, but LinkedIn has been really good. So I've been trying to go on LinkedIn more, and I
Yeah.
think I'm meeting more of my travel people there and stuff.
Hmm.
And then beyond that, I have been saying yes to a lot of projects that are, they're creative projects, but through these projects, I think I'm expanding like all the possibilities of things.
Yeah.
I think there's just like a lot going on and shifting in DC, and I'm trying to really lean in on like our communities. So I think I've been able to identify them and just asking, what do you need? How do we work together? But yeah, you'll have to follow us to see
Yeah,
what we do.
follow to see. Well, you said a couple things though. Like one, from a business owner perspective, one, the virtual assistant or whatever service you need to help you. I think we've talked about this before. In the beginning, I didn't have a bookkeeper, and I didn't, and then that helped free up just the stuff that I don't want to do.
Hmm.
I don't want to do it. I mean, I know it's part of business. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm not going to just hand it off. I'm going to understand it. But that was one. And then getting a virtual assistant too, because if you're going to be the, whatever you want to call yourself, founder, president, CEO, whatever the job title is, letting go of some of that stuff, which is so hard for those of us who've been doing it on our own, like white knuckling it. But that's the advice I give people all the time. Like, what can you let go of? Who can do something else for you that gives you the chance to pick up these other projects, or that might just be more creative for you? So that's the one thing. And then the social media. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think I do a fine job. I can come. I think it's
Yeah.
like I can come up with content. I can figure that out. I can understand the strategy, but I think it's the other stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, why am I constantly having to do this? And LinkedIn is interesting because also if people are looking to do team builds and groups of
Mhm.
attorneys or whatever, that might be where they end up finding you. Is there too?
I'm getting comfortable with LinkedIn. I'll be honest too, which I think this is not as accepted in my historian and museum world, but I'm also dabbling with like AI
Hmm.
and ChatGPT, and
Yep.
I'm a writer, so I have my hesitations, but I'm also finding even on LinkedIn, you could just spot when it's that, and so it's like there's like a mental awareness that you need to like sift through these things, and I don't want to be throwing content out there just to do it. And I'm also like, if I'm not constantly producing content on social media, like that's fine because I produce content on tours, like that's what we do, right?
It's
So
in
it's
real
just
life.
yeah, yeah. So it's just like an interesting time, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think social media is just you gotta find what's right for you. But I think you do a great job with it. I
Oh,
loved my little headshot that you guys did. Thank you for that.
we did the best we could. Well, it's funny too because I think I always say use those tools as tools. Like it may
Mhm.
not be the end all be all. Like you said, can AI necessarily replace what you do? Probably not. I mean, it's a walking physical in real life, thing that you all do, and it's yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there like, well, we can replace it with a robot doing a tour. Yeah, right. Go for it, bro.
Yeah,
Because it's gonna be a bro that does it. Um,
it can.
Go for it. But I think, people do crave real human connection. And that's why we can often I think sometimes people like if you're going to use AI as a tool, I use it too, but you better read it. You got to look at it. You got to. I tell this to the students too that I work with. I'm like, it's fine if your resume is done through AI, except when the person interviewing says, "Well, tell me about the time you sold 50,000 blah blah blah," and you're like, "Did I write that? Is that in my resume? Because you didn't memorize it, you know." You didn't write it. So I think that it's a tool. I think people can use it. But like you said, when it can be easy to spot. My thing is the opposite. Like I hate it when I get these videos and I'm like, now I gotta go and figure out if this was real. And I gotta go see and if the dog sat on top of a pigeon and if so
Yeah.
it's one thing when it's that, but it's something else when it's like a human and you're like, oh boy, I gotta go see
No,
if this is real.
truly. It's really concerning, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really concerning in a lot of ways. But, oh, actually, I just to pivot a little bit, I forgot to say that actually this year, in the next couple months, we're going to relaunch the third edition of our book,
Oh,
updated it. So that's just like I'm trying to bridge the fact that travel books still exist, and honestly, they are really good resources because places, of course, places change a little bit, but like,
yeah.
so the AI like travel planning, not a fan,
Mm-mm.
not a fan.
No.
I've dabbled in it a little bit, like, because I know a little bit of where the line is, but like, it's definitely not there for travel planning. So lean in on like more traditional resources and people, Facebook groups where people are like putting things in forums. And I think that we still have to be really, really careful about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the same as, Waze taking you, 12 miles out of the way to save you 3 minutes. It's like, look at it before you do it. And I have no sense of direction, but I still look at it. And I'm like, wait a minute. In fact, sometimes it's like, wants you to cross like 16th Street during rush hour where there's no light. I'm like, nah, I see what you're trying to do here to save me 2 minutes. AI, that's AI. It's the same with the travel AI. It's like, go into a Facebook group, or I mean, that is also kind of sketchy, but talk to a
Hmm.
person that has done it before or gone to the
Yeah.
place. I mean, it's funny. I get a lot of people asking me about their trips to Greece when one, I've only been to certain parts of Greece. It's like there's other parts of the country, but I give them what I have, and I keep really good notes. I'm like, here's every place I ate in Athens. Are they open anymore? I have no idea, but I liked all of them, so check it out. But it's going to be way better than what AI is going to give you. I hate to
Hmm.
say it, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
controversial. We're not supposed to use it because we're also ruining the environment. There's all sorts of implications.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have to have these conversations and like, having them with especially other women, because again, I think there's like a divide here between how women and men operate and all that. But across different industries, it's important to talk about it. And I think what is interesting about the tourism industry in like the last probably 3 or 4 years is like post COVID really is like there's just like a lot of conferences and conventions and people are gathering.
mm,
This is true in my women's spaces too. People are gathering in like intimate real life
mm,
groups. And so we're learning, we're talking about it, we're figuring it out. I don't think we're like there, but like
yeah,
we're kind of in an era, I think, of people know that we have to really have strategic, intentional conversations about some of this stuff to figure out, what are other people doing, what's working, what are we like a hard no on,
hmm,
and that's been like really nice for business the last couple of years. I did a lot of like intake
yeah.
at these kinds of events, and now I'm like, I think I'm ready to like put it out there.
Put it back
So
out there. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, this is your eighth. Does 2026 is your eighth year, or your? It,
yeah,
okay, let's just say. Yeah,
one,
my this
yeah.
is my eighth or my ninth.
Oh, what?
Because I feel like 2027 is going to be my 10, and I need to do like a big. I'm turning 10. I'm pretty
Heck
sure
yeah.
that's right. So yeah, it's wild. Do you look back sometimes and go, "How the hell? How did I get here?"
I definitely do that. More importantly, sometimes I see like my original like designs for Instagram or something, or like the original logo I was playing with, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Thank God my like skills have improved,
Yeah,
but you got to start somewhere.
you
Like,
do. And
yeah.
one of the things that I think is 2026 has taught me too is like some stuff we have to let go. Like I think I've kept on doing certain things, or maybe certain consulting programs that I offer, like things that I've done that I held on to because I created them, and I'm like, that's my baby. I created that, but it's like it's okay to let it go. Times have changed, and I think that's a really hard lesson for business owners because we created it. So it's like, well, I don't want to let go of that. I made that. It's like, well, no one's showing up. I talk about I changed my office hours this year. I love my office hours, and when people are there, it's great. When no one shows up, it's just me kind of working. And I was like talking to my VA, Mickey, and she's like, it's a lot of effort for nobody showing up. I was like, you are
Yeah.
right. Why am I doing this? And I had to go back to the original purpose was to create community, to have a place where people can kind of share ideas and troubleshoot and so that the purpose remains the same, but the way I do it is a little different now. So,
What changes did you make on it? Like,
well, it's every
specific?
other month.
Okay.
It's invitation.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's invited, but it's
There we go.
invitation. It's like come RSVP, tell me that you're going to be there. So it's because it's free.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you see someone on your calendar and you're like, maybe I don't have to go because I didn't pay for that. So I'm just trying to make it a little bit more intentional, having themes each of the months too, so people can kind of prepare and be like, this is something I'm struggling with, and I definitely want to be there.
Yep.
So I'm trying to try it that way. But I was like, but it was such a good idea. Well, yeah, 3 years ago it was a good idea. Now you can change it. But I was one of those people that was like, I cannot change it. This is the way we do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's dumb.
Because it takes so much time too to set up the materials and the systems and the procedures, and then you're like, oh, I got to give it time to like get its like legs and then its wings, and then you're like, oh, maybe it just needs a shift, and then by the time you're like, wait a second, I get
Right. And now you have to go to Chat GPT and be like, this is the thing I'm doing. You shift it for me. And it'll be like, yeah, you need, do all these things, these bells and whistles. I'm like, I don't understand any of this, so I'm not doing
it. It's interesting. I've definitely been toggling with that idea for a while, and I might launch into this, probably not in the spring because tour guides are so busy, but I was thinking about doing like a Toho town hall kind of a
it.
thing
Yeah.
where people can come, and it could be tour guides, it could be people in the women's history space, travelers. Like I think that there could be themes with it as well. But to your point, yeah, like invitation goes far, so there's like a lot in that curation, which is
Mhm.
important.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I'm also, I'm sitting with other programs that I started and ended, like the lineup, which you knew very
Right.
well. Like that was really heartbreaking to let go of,
Mm-hmm.
but it was probably the right thing to do. But now I'm like, I let go of something that I really cared about.
Yeah.
And like, what are you replacing with too? Like, or what are
Right.
you let it go. What are you doing now with that? Not to say that you have to fill all your time or space, but like, you still have to have space for your community and for your people one
That's
way or
right.
another. That's
Yeah.
not private or not at a high cost. And that's the social justice side of it that
Yeah.
you're doing with your,
And that
yeah.
it is. It's a really good. It's a good reminder for people that run businesses. It's like it's okay to let it go. And is the mission the same of that project or whatever it was? Maybe it shifted a little bit. Even this, on the front, it used to just be my Instagram live stream, and I'd just go live on Instagram. It was easy breezy. And then I was like, oh, people seem to really like these conversations. And I think everyone has a great story to tell. And, it was like, well, how can I stream it onto LinkedIn too? Because I have more people on LinkedIn. And then it became like, well, you need a platform. And I was like, oh, Lord, now it's something
Yeah.
new. And if
Yeah.
anyone on LinkedIn works at Riverside, which is the platform we're using, I'd like to have a chat with you. I'm putting that in the caption too, because no one's going to watch to the end. But freaking Riverside, man, y'all are killing me.
Yeah. Oh my
Every time I
God.
get the invoice, I'm like, really? You didn't want? You
For
didn't
this, you're being invoiced for your frustration.
exactly.
I will say this year, I think more so in the fall, I don't know why it took me so long, but I became best friends with Zapier and just automating things. And now
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, it's such a game changer. So I'm hoping people roll with that. But again, it's like you have to know the process, you have to know the system. Once you're committed on a platform, it's like really hard just mentally to be like, oh, let me see if another platform works better. Let me just figure out the uniqueness of this one. So
That's
yeah.
totally where I am. It's like I'm like, all right, Riverside, I'm really giving you. I got high hopes for you. Yeah, a lot of people really like Zapier for automations and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm gonna be like. I always said I stay up to date on technology and social media and other tech platforms, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, now I feel really old because there's new things coming that I can't keep up with. But
Yeah,
what am I gonna do?
it's hard. It's hard to keep up with
It's
it.
hard to keep up. Awesome. So, what we want to tell people is to find Toho on all those social platforms.
Yeah.
You're on Instagram, you're on the Facebooks, you got an email list if they go to your website. Third edition of the book is in the works. When will that be?
It should launch officially in August. We just
Perfect.
wrote we just wrote our final chapters. I'll give you a sneak peek. We had to remove about 6 or 8 chapters
Oh,
because the places closed down or whatever, so we had to change it. So like one of those places, so sad, like Miss Pixies,
yeah, I love mixed business
yeah,
pictures. Yeah.
and stuff like that. But so we submitted it. There are publishers doing the work now, and then I guess August it's gonna hit. So
Awesome.
we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, the email list is like a great way to stay in the loop,
Yeah.
and then our Facebook group is really good. But yeah, I think book a tour, like just inquire. We have a pretty good inquiry sheet. You just tell us who you are, what your budget is, what you need. We'll build it from there. And it's a lot of budgets and a lot of group sizes, so we got you.
And I could totally vouch for the tours I've done. How many have I done? I think I've done four or
How many?
five. I did one private of the what did I do? Wild Women of Embassy Row, which was super fun with Rebecca.
You
Um,
did Georgetown. Remember Georgetown in the cold
that's
winter?
right.
You were like, I'll never forget that. You were like, just your eyes, it was like a scarf. And
Mittens on. Yep, that was the was that also a Wild Women? I think that was a Wild Women, wasn't it?
yeah,
Wild,
they're
no,
all wild women.
they're all Wild Women of Georgetown. And then yeah, the most recent one you did with the folks that came to visit from Philadelphia. So that's also cool. You
Yeah.
guys collaborate with other cities who are doing unique tours. That was really fun.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it just tells the story of like cities, this works in some places and other places it doesn't, and how are you that truly tells the city, like how
Yeah.
are you connecting with your government, your schools, your businesses. Like some places are like, no, we don't really do that. Some are
Yeah.
like, no, like they're really supportive. So that's been interesting. Yeah, that was the Women's History Mile, which is the one that I do a lot. And we went to the Clara Barton Missing Soldiers office.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Women's History Mile. I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. So, okay, listen, if y'all got this far, and there'll be stuff in the captions, book a tour. Like some people are like, oh, I don't need a tour guide. I can figure it out. Yeah, okay, figure out day 3 and 4 by yourself. But for day one, get a tour, get a lay of the
Yeah.
land, understand what's going on. Especially people who are coming from, you know, I don't know. I'm going to say west of the Mississippi, where you're just like, I know DC. I've seen it on television. Yeah, it's not. It's
Yeah.
get a tour guide. Just for a morning or an afternoon. It's fun.
Yeah, if you're like a family or someone that's coming to DC for a couple days, like it really, I will meet groups on the first day or I'll just like plan itineraries with them
Yeah.
because things change all the time. You don't know what's open, what's closed, what the best route is. But then mostly with like professionals that are coming here for like conferences and stuff for like event planners,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't always realize too, like if you just have like an hour and a half, it's like, okay, great, like hop on a bus with us and we'll just drive you to dinner and tell you things along the way. And all of a sudden it's like a better experience than just looking out the window and like, what's that? And,
Yeah.
where should I go and stuff. So there's like all kinds of things we can do, but
Yeah.
having a tour guide is really important. And I'm gonna be real with you, tour guides and tourism and museums and all that, they need your help right now because
Yep.
it's a lot of these places are closing. They're, the museums especially, they're not allowed to say some of the things that they want to
Right.
say.
Right.
But tour guides are pretty independent, so you're gonna get like a real honest take
Yeah.
on the city and the history.
Is there, aside from the basics, what's something that's like, I don't know, underground DC or secret DC that you would want people to go check out? Do you have something that you,
Right now, I went the other day and I was a little bit too early in the season, so I have to go back, but it's Hillwood Estate.
oh yeah.
It's in the middle of Rock Creek Park. It's a mansion and there's all kinds of gardens around it, and the gardens are really beautiful. The estate belonged to Marjorie Merriweather Post, who was the CEO, hey, business, CEO of Post Cereal Company. So she had like a ton of money, but she invested it in a lot of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact about her, a lot of people love this. This is how I like straddle the line on my tours, but her first house that she built was not in DC, it
I
was
know.
in
I
Florida.
know. I know.
Angela, what was it?
Mar-a-Lago.
Yes,
It's owned by, yes. Yes, that's
exactly.
indeed true.
So it's just like weird connections like that even the average person who is like, oh, like it's funny to know that. But it's a beautiful place. It's a pay what you can entry. Sometimes They make a suggested fee, but pay what you can. You can bring your food there and picnic, or they have a really cool cafe.
Yeah.
And I'd say like May into June is when you have like sunflowers and just like the bees and the butterflies, and it's really, really neat. It's an oasis in the middle of DC, and I love it. So go to Hillwood Estates.
I want to say that's a great suggestion. Mine is always the mansion on O Street because I think that that is like a hidden gem that people don't normally go to. So anybody listening, mansion on O Street, check it out. It's I don't know how many brownstones connected, but it's got secret doors, and you got to find your way. So it's part scavenger hunt, or I don't know, part hunt, part
Fun.
museum. Every room has a different theme, and everything is for sale. Like literally, you pick up a pen off the desk. It's like they'll sell it to you. It's really cool.
That is a great place. I think it's like three brownstones, but it's all ADA also. Isn't that wild?
It's amazing. It is
Yeah.
amazing. I don't remember how many hidden doorways there are, but I think we found half of them one night. It was really cool.
And Rosa Parks lived there at some point. There's a Rosa
Parks
Parks
live
room.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, look at
Good one.
we are just dropping knowledge left and right. I'm gonna become a tour guide.
Yeah, at this point you can do it. You're hired.
Except for
Let's
that,
switch.
except for that terrible sense of direction, I could tell a story all day long, and not taking the bus.
Yeah. We won't put you on the bus. You could be a walking tour guide.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks everybody. I'll put all of Caitlin's stuff in the caption, and definitely book a tour. Come to DC.
Everybody, happy Women's History Month.
Happy Women's History Month.